Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate, HYPHENATE, and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too. We'd like to thank our sponsor, iZotope, the absolute leaders in intuitively designed plugins for audio restoration, mixing, and mastering. At iZotope.com, you'll find a plethora of tools and suites that will enhance your audio production, whether it's voice, video, podcast, or a full production recording session. Check out the industry-standard audio repair tool, RX11, or the multi-tool mixer plugin, Neutron 5, or the powerful Ozone 11 mastering suite, plus tons more. Go to iZotope.com and use the code FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. That's FRET10 to get 10% off at checkout. And again, the website is iZotope.com, IZOTOPE.com.
Like trying to imagine seeing it through somebody else's eyes without context, like if that positivity would like translate or not, because it's strange. It was like so harsh and aggressive, and people were like, clearly working out demons. Like it was really good for that. or it was just like very cathartic. Yeah.
Hello, what's happening? Randy Randall here. Thanks for listening to Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. On today's show, the show of July 24th, I am very pleased and excited to welcome my friend, dear old friend, Kyle Parker. I had not talked to him in a number of years, and I know he recently did some anniversary shows as Hyphenate Body to celebrate the anniversary of his record, Carve Out the Face of My God, that Dean Spunt put out on Post-Present Medium Records. So I was happy to hear that Kyle was playing music and was performing live. And I remember doing a lot of shows with Kyle. He was the No Age opener for a few tours. And he was really awesome and fun and very young. And I mean, we were younger then too, but he was somebody that I got to spend a lot of time with, traveling around the country and kind of witnessing his experience of witnessing the world. And he was always very thoughtful, and his music was, I think, profound for the time. This is beautiful kind of harmonic drones and things, but it was always very intense and really cathartic, like he was talking about in that opening quote there. And yeah, I don't know, I was bewitched, I was enthralled, enticed, hypnotized by Kyle's music. So I'm very happy that he's playing music and he's working on stuff. You can go find out more about Hyphenate Body don't go to the jewelry store. Go to the Bandcamp and hyphenatebody.bandcamp.com. He's also out there on the interwebs as Kyle Parker XXL on the Instagram. And yeah, he's got his Bandcamp happening. Yeah, you listen to this record, Carve Out the Face of My God. I feel like in my mind, the way I always remember it is like carve my face onto the face of God or something. So I think I was like, oh wow, that was so gnarly, carving and faces and gods. I remember like when that record came out, I was like, wow, Kyle's intense. And he was always, he was younger than us. I was like, whoa, he is locked in. And Yeah, no, I'm just happy to catch up with him all these years later. And Kyle's also on the Nina Protocol. Go check out the ninaprotocol.com. Big shout outs to the friends at the Nina Protocol. And he's got SoundCloud happening. Yeah, he's all over the place. Just look up Infinite Body, Kyle Parker. You will dig it. He is an incredible musician, an incredible artist, and really stoked that we got to chat and talk and present it here for your listening pleasure on Hyphenate Podcast with your host, Randy Randall. That's me. All right, let's go to the interview. Kyle, thanks so much for coming on Hyphenate. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. It's been over 10 years since I've seen you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. But we did a bunch of tours together. We did the round table, the No Deech Hunter, Dan Deacon tour. What was it? It was No Age, Dan Deacon, Deer Hunter, and then you, White Magic, and then
White Rainbow,
and
Ed.
Oh, Ed Schrader's Music Beat, or just the
yes.
Ed Schrader. Yeah. Wow.
It was cool. It was like every band got to bring their little brother along.
That's so fun. Wow, that was a wild time. But gosh, I don't even know what year that was. Was that 2010 or earlier?
No, that was like 07 or
2007, 2008
or 8, something like that.
Oh my God.
I remember I moved to Portland in 2008, I think, very briefly, but it was like really hard to find roommates or a place to live and a job too. And so I remember being on Craigslist, and I was just like, and I was like, because you had to say something to like make yourself stand out from the millions of people like emailing for, like a shitty house with like 14 roommates, and you had to be like,
I was like, cool? Why
I was like, I went on tour with No Age.
Oh no.
Please give me a room.
Oh no, did that help?
It worked. Yeah, it did.
Okay, so, amazing. If nothing else, we got you a place in a shitty house with 14 roommates in Portland.
Yeah.
Hopefully the scabies weren't too bad, and the amount of the theft between roommates for cheap drugs wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know if Portland was.
I mean, actually, the house was kind of lousy, but the people were all really sweet. Actually, I found a tape recording from that period where, so at that time I was making a record for Cali, and hold on, I gotta make sure that okay, and I wanted to, so I was like, I was always into like vocoders and stuff, and and I wanted to try recording a bunch of people screaming and run that through a vocoder. And so I was like pestering my roommates for like a week or two, just like following them around like with a tape recorder, like getting them to scream into it. And then but I found like a year or so ago, I found that the raw recording of that tape, it was like still on my computer, and it's really fun. It's really funny, just like me, or just like all of us standing in the living room and me like asking my roommates to scream as loud as they can. And I ended up using that again on my newest album I put out last year, but without like the vocoding or anything. It's just like the
Wow,
tape
just the
recording of it.
screaming.
But it's just like out of context. It's just like, and like people are like counting down, getting ready to scream. You don't know what's going to happen.
Oh wow.
Um,
I would imagine all the
and
stuff up leading up to the scream would be the interesting part too, like you asking or
yeah, it's just
instructing how
like,
to
it's,
do it, and they're like, yeah.
yeah, I really, I really love recordings like that where you don't, um, you can't tell like what's happening or why, as far as like field recordings go.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. Where do you come from? I mean, I first met you here in Southern California.
Um,
Is that
yeah, it's where I grew up, and
how did you get
uh,
started making music?
well, I I was into art when I was younger and tried to get into art school, but I didn't get in. So I went to like a um, uh, like normal or just like just not art high school. And I was like really bummed about it, but that was where I met um, my friend Alex, who became my best friend, and he was into like punk and heavier stuff in general, which I never was, but like and but he had found out about I think he had found out about wolf eyes somehow, and that was like how he discovered what like noise was. And then like somehow he found a website for like a local like advertising a local noise show. It was actually it was Jeff Witcher and his brother Greg. They had this project back then when they were maybe also teenagers or early early 20s or something, called Rainbow Blanket. And back then you could have there was some island out somewhere that like had like really cheap web hosting services, and so you could get your own, you could get a custom domain name, which was a really big deal at the time because it costs like money to do that, but you could get one for free as long as it was like .tk instead of .com. But otherwise you could like have, you know, so you could have like rainbow blanket .tk or whatever it was. And I remember at the time this was like mid 2000s or early 2000s, that was like a really big deal to like have your own website, because also it's like pre MySpace even or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. So yeah, but it was basically, it was like a GeoCities esque, just like very like bare bones low quality websites, but that was like where you would you know, find out about shows and stuff. So but yeah, so he Alex found um out about that this show coming up, and it was like some, is that like a, I don't know, a Jewish youth center out in Tahunga or something, and we drove all the way out there, and like it blew uh, our minds, and then I didn't do I hadn't like learned music at all growing up, and like I really I really wanted to like make trance at one point, but I had no idea how. Like I had a really early copy of Reason, um, but and I thought DJs were really cool, um, but yeah, and then so but I saw these freaks just playing with pedals and stuff, and like it was like it didn't matter like what you were doing. It was just like raw energy, and you could just like put it out immediately without any kind of like, I don't want to say like without skill, but just like the barrier of entry was like much lower, just as long as you had like, a mixer and a pedal or two or something, and like a shitty contact mic that you could, Radio Shack still existed. You could buy the parts for a contact mic for like, $5 or whatever. So yeah, so if I hadn't discovered noise through Alex when I was, 15, 16, whatever, I don't think I ever would have like gone on to make like, like actual music, because I never would have. I always would have thought like, oh, that's something you have to like, train and learn over time and practice, and like missed the window to do that, or whatever. It'd be like too hard and not fun. But yeah, starting with noise was really cool because it was just fun. Like immediately, you could just try shit and get results because like the goals were much simpler. It was just like a really loud sound, and yeah, and then over time, I thought like, well, it might be interesting to add new elements to it, like like a synthesizer or something. But it was always informed by that, by that kind of kinetic energy of noise. So I was like, it became an interesting question. Like later, like a few years later, when I started Infinite Body, it was like, well, what if there was like, melodic elements, which still like, throughout that whole time, even when I started getting into noise and stuff, I still always, in terms of the music I listened to, it was still always like, really melodic stuff, like appealed to me, and like and and the way that could like affect uh, emotions, and how my body felt and stuff. But then yeah, eventually I became curious, like if you could marry the like melody or melodic elements and the emotions that those invoke, but keep the volume and um, harshness and sort of impact of the noise elements, and just like kind of just be kind of overwhelmed by it, like that ended up being the trajectory I was on. But yeah, but otherwise, and then last year I made just a straight up like just piano album, but I never would have like, I never would have you know made any kind of music, or given myself permission um, to do that, unless I had um, started with noise. So yeah.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've observed, or I think I've meditated more on regarding noise shows, or just kind of the noise show practice of it
Mm-hmm.
all. I'm in my 40s now, and it's been decades of small, poorly attended, shows as a performer and as an audience member, and it was never really, but not, I say poorly attended in a joking kind of way, because it was never really about that. I realized
Yeah.
I I I've come to a place where I see a lot of noise shows now, or even, but then I even look back and kind of retroactively can apply it to that too. It was a form of therapy, and like a sense of
Mm.
of holding space, which I think is a concept that's more commonplace, or popularly understood or talked about, that I don't think really existed in those early aughts. And that idea of just holding space, and what that meaning, just kind of meditating. And especially for, I think, like when I was younger in my 20s, this feeling of like, oh, I'm just going to stop. Maybe I'll sit down. And then just the music itself isn't necessarily the focus, but it allows you to break focus and break like your own narrative stride within your own life, and kind of just sit
Mm.
and just sort of be without really a place of purpose in a way, especially I think as a
Yeah.
young person. For myself, I can speak to it, like it really like felt freeing in a way of like almost, but I think at first it's almost this feeling of like, is this a joke? Like what is happening? This isn't even a thing. This is like someone dragging a chair across the ground, or this is just TV
Yeah.
static. But there's a formality of the venue or the art gallery or whatever the group, informal group it is, that's formal enough to imply this feeling of like, we're all going to shut the fuck up and we're going to just
Mhm.
hold space for this for
Yeah.
this person. And then all sorts of stuff comes up within yourself. That's then that form of meditation, sort of subconscious exploration of things, as an audience member, which I think can be very like freeing or very just sort of like grounding in a way that I don't think I had the language around that as a younger person, but I enjoyed it so much. It was a very kind of like different, almost addicting kind of thing where like, oh, I want to feel like I need a noise show. I need something where I can just kind of go and zone out for a while. It gave me the
Yeah.
permission to do nothing. And I think as a
Yeah.
go kind of ADD or hyper ambitious, excited young person, it was nice. And
Yeah.
I couldn't put it into those words. I couldn't consciously appreciate it in that sort of way. I just knew I liked it and it was cool. And it was like Thurston Moore kind of stuff. I was like, hey, this is cool, man.
Mhm.
It felt very New York, very avant-garde, but there was more to it than that, I think. And I've come to appreciate that as I've gotten older and, and realize even as a performer and in my solo work, it's a lot of it, like it's for me. Like I set a timer. I have a kitchen timer that I've added to my
Mhm.
pedal board, and it really allows
Mhm.
me. Like I've been doing long form pieces or shows of 40 minutes of music that's nonstop. But what I really take into account the playing within a temporal space, and
Mhm.
seeing like, oh, okay, over time, like this note or this piece that I'm doing here, this figure needs to last for 3 minutes before I can change and
Mhm.
go on to the next one. And so it really holds these spaces. Cause I think in my early days, I would get nervous. I'm like, oh, okay, 30 seconds, change the thing. I got to go to another thing, another thing. And
Yeah.
I'd be done in like 5 minutes. I'm like, it was
Totally.
supposed
Yeah.
to last 20 minutes at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I uh, relate to a lot of that, especially yeah, the timing thing too. Yeah. I lose, yeah, if I don't have a visual timer, I lose all sense of like how long stuff has been going on. And yeah, and I'm more inclined to rush than to go over. But yeah, it's really interesting about like, yeah, like looking back on that time and like um yeah, and wondering the function that noise like served for different people. I just hung out with Alex yesterday, and we were um, talking about this a bit because like I had a mini DV camcorder that I brought to shows like roughly between like 2006 and 2008, in that period. And I finally like digitized all those tapes and have been like going through and editing them down and stuff. And it's funny watching those um, clips and yeah, the memories and the emotions it evokes in me, but which are like mostly really positive, but at the end, but also like wondering like what it would like, trying to imagine seeing it through somebody else's eyes without context. Like I have no idea like if that positivity would like translate or not. Because it's strange. It's like the music was like it was like so harsh and aggressive, and people were like, clearly working out um, demons. Like it was really good for that.
Mm-hmm.
like or it was just like very
Cathartic.
cathartic, yeah,
Yeah.
to perform and also to watch. Um, but but it didn't feel like it had some kind of like dark aura to it or something. It was weird,
Mm-hmm.
like what you were saying about holding space. That was interesting because yeah, it's interesting, like because overall it was like you know the mood was always really like goofy and kind of like low stakes, but when it was when somebody was like performing, like everybody shut up and like allowed them to do their thing, and then they would like go like 100%, like scream their head off or break something or whatever they did, and then it was just back to cracking jokes and stuff. But it was like and like part of that was like probably like being a teenager or young and just like not knowing how to uh like express authentic feelings around people and whatever, just like acknowledge like sincerity and like sincere emotions like that in that space of catharsis. But we still all like it was like a maybe like an unspoken kind of agreement we all had. It was like while the it's like everybody's goofing off and cracking jokes and like right up until the point where like the person actually starts playing, and then once they're done it's like back to cracking jokes, but like we still like held that container, that space, like more or less like pretty pretty seriously, and maybe we all kind of understood it because we all uh yeah, we all knew from, because it was mostly it, like in the noise scene, but that larger like LA scene at the time, it was like a lot of just like performers watching other performers like that. That was like what most of the audience seemed like be made up of, and so my guess would be that that most people kind of understood that implicitly, or like took it seriously to some degree, because you knew like, well, yeah, I take it seriously when I perform, or it's like it serves this kind of cathartic function for me. But yeah, it's weird, and like I was talking with Alex about it, because it's like it's very easy to romanticize, like overly romanticize a period that was like 20 years ago, and when you were younger, and you know you just like forget a lot of stuff, and like I know I was like you know miserable and lost in a lot of ways, but also like I don't know, I just it didn't feel, it has this weird kind of wholesome quality to it when I watch back at these on these tapes and stuff. Actually, I found one I was just going through yesterday. It was you and Dean playing at it. I think it was the opening of the family bookstore.
Oh, cool.
You
Was that a
guys
collaboration?
um,
Or it was just us?
it was just you two just
Okay.
playing the classics, but the whole they had that long building, and it was just like totally packed through. It was great.
Oh my God. I'd love to see that. Yeah, that was really fun. That era. Yeah. The family bookstore was very easy. We lived over in that part of town in West
Hmm.
Hollywood, and, and I remember it seemed like a lot of like-minded people at the time, sort of this fun sort of clubhousey sort of feel. There was a time we were trying to finish songs before we went on tour. I feel like we always wanted to have like 3 or 4 new songs to just play on tour, because it would help, sort of solidify the song, sort of just, but we needed to finish writing, and we weren't finishing for some reason. And so
Hmm.
I remember pitching it to Dean and to David Kramer, and being like, can we just come and like practice in the bookstore? It's sort of like a work in progress sort of thing, like a public performance of like sort of, unfinished pieces like in,
Hmm.
like as a art sort of concept. But I think that it allowed us to, it wasn't an official show or anything, but it was sort of like, just come drop in, hang out. Like we're just come hang out with us while we practice. And so
Hmm.
it was a sort of public practice thing, and it helped us. I think it was just enough pressure or enough of that kind of like nervous energy to like, well, we got to finish the song. It needs a part or it
Yeah,
needs something, you know. It was like, how would we finish this? And I think being in public was a way to do that. So I remember doing that. I think we did it for like 2 days, and it was just enough that we got all the work done.
that's a really cool idea. Wait, did you like let people know that you were doing that,
I think
or
so. I
did?
think we just kind of told friends, and it might have been word of mouth. I mean, obviously, it wasn't
Uh-huh.
social media back then, so
Right.
I don't know how. I don't think we made a flyer for it, but it was sort of just like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. And it was funny because then just random people would come in too, and then just sort of
Right. Yeah.
talk and tell stories or any, it was sort of a. It's not like we were a quiet background music sort of band either. We were kind of
Yeah.
annoying, I'm sure. Oh, I
Yeah.
think Bob Bruno came over because we were. It was next door to Largo, and he was Bob from Best Coast, and so he worked there at Largo, and they said we were bumming them all out like during the day. like, could you stop playing the same songs over and over again? And when we were friends with Bob, but he kind of told us
Uh-huh.
to shut up. We're like, oh, okay, sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, your performances, were definitely transcendent in that way. It's fun thinking about like Jeff and and that sort of scene, because it definitely felt like, I think the one, how do I even go about saying it? I think that, I mean, the smell was cool in that, like when Dean and I went, it was sort of the first generation where it was a lot of like, it was like spoken word and poetry nights
Mm.
and these sort of outsider music things like Craig Grady and the Centimeters, and this, there was a kind of like neo boho primitive sort of 90s sort of noise scene that kind of
Hmm.
came out of like a Jabberjaw or this sort of LA, like on the, what was that, experimentation society, or what was the, it was, there was always, there was kind of these like sort of official experimental things,
Hmm.
but it was all ages, and I think Dean and I kind of went in and wanted to, or I think we were just younger, and so we were just inviting our friends, and as we got more involved and as we volunteered more, it was fun to see younger people sort of
Hmm.
access it in a way where it wasn't just drunken guys in their like late 20s, you know,
Yeah.
who looked like they
Yeah.
read a lot of Ginsberg and had a bunch of thrift store clothes on. It was this sort of like younger generation. It was, I think there was more energy to it, but it was fun to sort of see like the noise and the abstraction sort of enter into that space as well with another
Yeah.
generation.
That was yeah, the smell was where I played my first show with um Alex. Like I don't know how long after we like, started going to noise shows, but you know, but yeah, it clicked pretty quickly like, oh, we could do this, and yeah, and then we ended up playing there. But we did like costumes and the whole the whole shit. Like Alex was wearing, I think, like Darth Maul underwear on his head, and I had this had a blue jumpsuit, and there were these really creepy um, Halloween masks that you could get at like I don't know, like Rite Aid or CVS or something like that. It was like it was like it looked like the Michael Myers Halloween mask, except there was like a red one for a fireman, but it was just like entirely red, and the helmet was like part of the, it was
God.
just like one form, and then there was a blue one which was a cop, and
Oh Lord.
with the cop, so just with the cutout eyes, it was like just really creepy, and that was the one I had because it matched the jumpsuit,
Wow.
but I was terrified. I was just like standing, like couldn't really move the whole time. Um, but yeah, the smell was great. Like again, like in terms of like the low barrier of entry, like it was like the music, the harsh noise itself had that low barrier, but then also like, a space like that to, let some, to book 2 16-year-olds for their first show, like over an email or whatever, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a real, a real, gift, I guess, to have access to something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a funny one too, because I think whenever I talk about the Smelter, I always just feel like it's important to know that it was dangerous. It just always felt, it just didn't feel safe in so many ways too, in terms of just the environment and being downtown LA in an alley, and,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this type of like, it's for everyone, but there is, again, that like the low barrier of entry in terms of like musicianship to play noise, but there was also the
Mm-hmm.
high barrier of just social bravery to even go to see a show there, or some type of like, you had to have, there was a barrier of just like, this is not necessarily inviting. There's nowhere to park. You're probably going to get cars, probably going to
Right.
get broken into.
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere to drink necessarily. I mean, next door, if you're of age and, you can find a bar, but it wasn't necessarily inviting, which is, I think, so
Mm-hmm.
important to the type of all ages, punk crusty sort of thing. Because, I'm sure you've done shows too, where sometimes it's just like, this is too sanctioned. This is like at a church, like rumpus room, and everyone's just too happy, and there's punch here, and there's lights are on too much, and there's carpet, and you're just like, this doesn't feel right either. You're making it too easy. We need to have just the right level of like fear and grossness, and the human feces in the alley to really make
Yeah.
it feel like a real show.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's like, because, and, and, but there's like another part of the trajectory after that, at least in my memory, where, yeah, it's scary, but then you're also like, when you're around people who are already familiar with it, or like it's like a normal thing for them to like go out to this
Mm-hmm.
place, like, maybe, multiple times a week probably, and uh and you can kind of relax because you see like it's, like, or at least like, yeah, from like for like a shy kid from the suburbs, like, it was like, it had that kind of, it was like, uh yeah, it was like, it was worthwhile to um be, I don't know, I'm not really sure how to phrase, but also like going on, because we went on tour, like, you know it was not long after that, like my first summer after high school, and like, so having that experience, like, in, yeah, shitty weird DIY venues and warehouses, like, but all like, all over the US, and just, and that, like, yeah, I'm struggling how to describe that feeling, but it's like scary and unknown, but also it's just like, it's just another way that people live, and or like or it's normal to um somebody else, like I guess, like um broadening my view of the, like, world, and all the different kinds of like experiences and um people there are, and like, and types of scenes and venues and stuff, and like, um yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing that could be very uncomfortable, or just inherently is uncomfortable. But it's like the same sort of uncomfortability of like going to a new school for the first time. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's uncomfortable too. But eventually, but there's something more informal about this, where it's just like, yeah, the whole world is uncomfortable everywhere. So it's like kind of throw yourself into the deep end in the most uncomfortable way of like, but then I think there's a repetition to tour and that kind of way where where things start to just become familiar, even when they're brand new places. You sort of know like, okay, there's some type of load in time or load in area. There's a habitual nature to the flow of the days. Even if you're loading into a basement one day, into a venue, a proper venue the next day, still the same thing happens. You gotta show up, load in, wait around, play shows, load out, and then crash somewhere. You just repeat for the next 30 years of your life.
So sleep on a disgusting floor. Yeah.
Yeah. I always my trick always became to try to find the kitchen table or whatever like dinner table there was and hide under that, because it just seemed like the likelihood of getting fucked with in the middle of the night was lessened if people couldn't walk right on top of you or step on you. I needed some kind of little table fort around me.
Yeah. Or the like everyone had the radar of like
the spot
as soon as you show up to load in. It's like if there's a couch, like,
right. Like I call dibs.
I'm claiming it now. Yeah. I mean, probably more likely like nobody honored that. Like, and it was just like you just had to like actually like as soon as the show was over, just like physically
grab
like
it. I'm here. Yeah. I'm occupying this. Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I mean, the amount of times Dean and I have, rock, paper, scissors or something, flip a coin for who gets the floor, who gets the less floor like position. Oh, it's gosh, I know all those things are definitely I think I was gonna say I also drank a lot, which was helped in those situations. I was like, okay, if I can sleep anywhere if I'm quasi passed out, so just get a 6-pack and then go, okay, I'm good, I'm just gonna go to sleep here, bye.
Yeah, that's another weird thing about at least the teenage noise years for me is that I was sober during that. I didn't I think well, at least in the beginning, but that just makes it even crazier to think back on that I was just like raw dogging those experiences. But I didn't start like drinking or anything till I was like early 20s, and then that did help me, it didn't help me. I thought it would help me coping and on future tours, but then
it ends up being the source of its own problems and confusion.
Pretty messy.
The other thing too I was just thinking about in terms of like noise versus music, you know what I mean? It's such a blurry, non-existent particled line of things of just like, well, what is this? It's all sound. But one there's definitely an abstraction to it, which I've always found interesting. And I think there's, it's that type of like modern art, versus populist art sort of idea of like, well, anybody could do this. My kid, an elephant can paint an abstract picture. And it's like, well, no, but there's a lot of sophistication within abstraction, but there's also a lot of just intuition that you feel it. There has, specifically in the type of music, the abstraction of sound, to where, you really do have to have some kind of, there's a personal, instinctual sort of metronome that can kind of go with it. But I remember I heard somebody tell me something, and I was like, oh, this is a cliche, but it applies. And I think about it in times of performance, especially when I was talking about like the clock, is that like visual art decorates space, like a 3-dimensional space, and music decorates time. Like the music is a form of decoration through a timeline. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting sort of way of thinking about it. Like as if time is just perpetually running, and you can hang little notes on that timeline, or you can decorate that timeline, or you can fill it with something, or you can allow space between it, and this type of playing off of a never ending stopwatch, or just a never ending clock that's just always continually ticking. But how you fill that space within time is a choice you have. And in terms and making creative, artistic, or abstract choices within what fills that time space, that timeline. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It gave me something, a collaborator, in a sense, like I was collaborating with the time.
Yeah.
Going. I don't know if you've worked on those looks. I know, there's a pace or tempo to some of your work.
Yeah. It's just, well, that opened up a lot of threads, but well, starting with what you said at the beginning in terms of like that sort of that assumption of like um and anybody could do that type of thing. When it came to noise, that's the other thing. And seeing in this old footage and stuff. I mean, well, yeah, it did have that low barrier to entry, but there was tons of room for skill and artistry, and like and and when people had it down, they really had it down. Like you could, it was like, you could get a lot of emotion and catharsis just out of really loud, harsh sounds like that. But even like a harsh noise wall that's been going on for like 10 seconds, it's like in one sense your body already kind of adapts to that, and you could like it doesn't necessarily like keep your attention or whatever, but the like but the the guys that I grew up with watching, like they had they had a sense of there was like a flow to it, and there was like tension and release and stuff, and like you know um um interludes, like sometimes like little ambient interludes before you like brought it back full blast and stuff. But like people yeah people would really um dial it in. There was definitely a skill to it. And another thing, speaking about time, is that was like one of the characteristics of, and I don't know if this was like necessarily an LA specific phenomenon when it came to harsh noise, but like everybody played for like literally like 2 or 3 minutes, like and you would, but that was just the way. I mean, you just packed as much like energy and emotion and stuff as you could into that, and it was just like totally normalized, and I think that was a completely like valid set, and still like worth like driving across town to go see somebody. It's just like, it's like you like they're literally going to play for 3 minutes, but it's that still counts as a show, or like or that or that would share a bill with Ape Vigoda or whatever. And but the timing question, I it comes up for me when I'm considering, like, when I think about recordings versus pieces that are played live, because I guess for me, live, performing live, either like as a performer or listening to music, like I was saying, that sense of time disappears pretty quickly, and that's something I guess I kind of like about live performance. But uh, and I ended up like um, well, I struggled with that during the 2010s, because I stopped like I didn't I stopped kind of enjoying like making like the like making music on my own, or like for its own sake. And but I still wanted to do it, but I just really hated the experience of like sitting down and working on it. um like the fun was gone, basically. And so to get around that, I would just like I would wait for somebody to, book me on a show, and then I would use that as a deadline to like force myself to make something new.
Mm-hmm.
But what um and then the result of that was I just kept making pieces that were meant to be performed live, which is like, for me at least, like it's just a different mindset when I think of like the um the composition and stuff, because um it's all about like how it feels in the moment. And and like when things happen is I leave up to the moment to decide. And it's, I'm going by feeling, and not because this part has been going on for 3 minutes and I need to, change it or something. um but when it comes to um but then yeah, when it I never really felt comfortable like m- making recorded versions of those pieces, because um I feel like it's a different, um it's, for me at least, it's like a different, a different set of, I don't know, I just experience them differently, and it's a different set of expectations. And I have like different kinds of considerations I need to make. And it's, it's something like, even like if listening to a recording, if I see that a song is 10 minutes long before I hit play on it, like that's like I'm already sort of like, I don't know what that sets me up for, but it's already affected. It feels like it's already affected my perception or my expectation in some way, or the quality of my attention,
Mm-hmm.
when listening to a recording, versus like I go to a show and the person has started and I don't know, like, even if I know the piece, or if the audience knows the piece I'm playing, like they don't necessarily like, that sense of time is like sort of not really there, and you're just like just letting it happen. And like negotiating that divide and that sense of time between like the version of something that I play live, and trying to translate into a recorded piece, is something I never really got um comfortable with. And so the result is like I just there's just a lot of pieces that I played over over a decade that they only existed in those live formats, which is not like a bad thing either, because you know in with my shows in particular, like it was so much about like the experience of being there, and listening to it at home is like really not meant to like be on the same, or is not intended to be on the same level of experience at all. But I feel like that divide, at least with what um, what I do or have done in the past, is like wider than, because that, like, you can say that about um, you know, like pop songs too, like the experience of listening to it at home and seeing someone perform it live. It's like there is a, a big difference in feeling and experience, and between those. But for whatever reason, I feel like in the kind of work that I've made, that divide is even wider in a way that's like, that makes it like not as simple as like if somebody liked one of those pieces that I performed or that I made just for a show and came up after, like, you should put that song out. It's like, for whatever reason, I'm like, it's not that simple as just like making a recorded version of that. Like, and that's part of you know it's partially a hang up on my part, but it's like, and that, there's a chance, obviously, with many things, that I'm overthinking it, but it's something that I never got like I never fully like resolved that question in myself.
I think it brings up an interesting point of intention, which I think, is not always clear, from an artist point of view, or that relationship between the artist and the audience, and the conversation around what is the artist's intention with the piece. I mean, I think that's always, I think, like when you say knowing it's 10 minutes prior to pressing play versus accepting the journey you're going to go on in the show.
Yeah.
There's this feeling of like, I already know what they're thinking, and it's what, by knowing where the just even the time length of it, playing with time. Again, this is our own sort of existential, or, just fundamentally boring, obsession with time and the human body and the human sort of existence in life, but to be in concert, or to be in conflict with your audience's reception, for whether in the recorded side, like, or versus the live side, or but I also respect the feeling of, this is what it was intended for. This piece was meant to be performed live and never to be heard in your bathroom while you're taking a shower. You know what I mean? I think there's a clear intention. Like, that's just the artist's intent. Like, no, you can hear, if you want to hear this, you have to hear it live. And I think that's perfectly normal. And I think there is a type of over servicing, I guess, in ways, where music is seen as entertainment, in ways that maybe art isn't necessarily seen. You could put a capital A on the art, and then it's allowed to be difficult and challenging, but everything else that's not that is expected to be divided and subdivided and exploited to an inch of its life, because that's what we do to entertainment, and especially, the digital age of it. I want a download code, I want a streaming link, I want a physical part of it, and can I get it on a t-shirt? And if you could just come over and hum it to me while I go to sleep too, that'd be great too. Is there a Patreon level for that? Can I just get the self-humming thing? I'm like, yeah, hey, we're all broke, and we're all at the service of whatever pennies, whatever streaming service providers will pay us. We're in essence, this, beyond low, arts have never been valued less, I think. Our music specifically as an art form has never had less value within our, last 100 years than it does now. So we it's asked of us to whatever your intentions are, who gives a fuck? But why isn't your shit on streaming? Everybody else's shit's on streaming. Your shit should be streaming. Well, maybe I don't like it. Maybe I don't feel comfortable with it. Maybe I don't get paid enough. Maybe it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then then you're not a musician, or then it's not music. This is not getting away for free everywhere. Then it's not considered valid music. Just like, I mean, I'm old enough to remember, like, if it's not on CD, or if your CD doesn't have a barcode on it, it's like, oh, we gotta
Right.
have the
Yeah.
barcode. The barcode code is this, like, it's an official piece of, like, produced, it's a unit of, like, physical media that can be sold
Yeah.
in stores. But if you don't have that, then you're not really part of the system. It's not, therefore not valid. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That question of legitimacy. There's all sorts of new ways to like um, torture oneself with that, like with that question, like new forms of legitimacy to worry about. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I, and I think, maybe the only, or maybe the main reason that I missed out on any kind of, or like, um, uh, I, because I ended up like, um, you know, disappearing for so long, and like just not putting stuff out for long stretches at a time. Like, I don't think people even like, I don't think it even occurred to people to like, um, uh, like badger me in that way of, or like to like, put, specific, or to have specific expectations like that. Um, but yeah, but it was weird. Like, it was weird, like re-entering, uh, like putting something new out last year, like in, but it felt like the whole, um, the whole ecosystem and conversation of like both the experience of being a musician, but also uh, being a fan of music had changed radically, like two or three times over since the last time I was like, um, in uh, in the public eye as a musician to any degree. And so it was very, it was, yeah, it was really weird to re-enter in that context, but I, it was like, it worked out in a way because I just sort of had no choice but to, have no specific expectations, because I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, like in
It's
this
all
whole,
new.
like,
It's
and
all weird. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, and I just had to think about it like, all right, try, I'll just try stuff, and it's like not, um, and I'll just see what happens. But it's like it was like very clearly like, you know low stakes in a way. But that was how, I mean, that was how I was able to like start recording again in the first place, was just like, it wasn't until I was like, um, until the stakes were like more or less completely gone, because again, in part, like I was like, well, I don't think anyone's even expecting me to put something new out at this point, so it's just like, so like I can I can remove that from the stress of like, or like that, those kind of questions like don't have to inform or block the experience of actually creating stuff in the way that they had before, which was part of why I stopped. And then it ended up being an like, and then so I was reframing the experience of like um, how to actually um, enjoy making the music again. And then when it came time to like put it out into the world, I had like reframe the experience of doing that. And yeah, but it always came back to like, just not being not being attached to a specific outcome being the only way to like really uh, stay sane um, amidst how chaotic and confusing and depressing in a lot of ways that the whole landscape has become. But that was important too. Is like I also had to like you know uh, re um, I've had to revisit like, well, like why is it still important for me to even make stuff, like even if there's no guarantee of any of these specific outcomes and no like realization of you know dreams or expectations that I may have had when uh, like 15, 20 years ago. And um and that was like a important uh like reckoning to have with myself, and one that's ongoing, because it's like one thing that's clear is that like I have to do it. Like I have to like make stuff or I'll go like kind of nuts. Like, so it's like that part like isn't a question. So it's like regardless. So it's like I had to, come to terms with that. Um, first of all, and then like the questions of like, and then the questions after that, it's like, well, is anybody listening? Does anybody give a shit? And like all this kind of stuff. And that, and, that's it. And then that's just another, um, another part of that, re, like renegotiating or reckoning. Cause, yeah, it's basically like, I mean, where I'm at with it now is that, yeah, it's still going to find people, and it's likely, still going to mean something to them, and uh, but it's also likely that I'm never going to know, and it's gonna, and because at least because of how the realities of how things are set up now, it's gonna feel and appear like nobody really gives a shit. Because that's just like, it's like, because that's just like, it's just like a very alienating landscape that we're in, and the options that are like available to us now for the most part, like as a I don't know the right term necessarily, but like an independent artist, or like a person
Hmm.
a person making stuff that like wants other people to see it or experience it. Like the landscape for someone who fits that description is like of options is like pretty. It's gotten to a pretty alienating point. It's like it's undervalued. Uh, you know, monetarily, like you were saying, and also like undervalued as like as something worthy of people's focus and attention, because like that whole aspect of our experience, our attention and stuff has just been like under such ongoing assault for so long now. So like sitting and experiencing something fully is like, yeah, like like devalued in it, maybe every sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. It's definitely the dark side of an attention economy, which is a phrase I've
Mm-hmm.
heard. This is you pay with your attention to
Yeah.
things. You know what I mean? Where as a consumer, you think that things are free, but really you're giving your literal time. Again,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of obsession, of time. But you pay with your time into these things, into these screens, and
Mm-hmm.
into these things, and you can, we get reports on the iPhones, spent 6 hours looking at this screen this week, and you're like, or 6 hours a day looking at, or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, that's my value, that's how I'm valued, or that's my value that I've given away in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for some form of entertainment. But when you look at it, it's like, I'm sure there's neuro psychologists that can talk about that, that sort of screen time and what it does. It's something different than entertainment. It's
Yeah.
a type of checking out, or some kind of somnambule sort of zombified state of, the doom scroll and this type of brain wave we get into. But in that regard of, like, what you have to justify your value of taking someone's attention. Like, is this thing is worthy of someone paying with their time to,
Yeah, that's
even if you're
another
giving away for
question.
free? Yeah, it's like, I'm not
Yeah.
even charging anything, but still, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I can't. But and that's the type of almost like sales prospectus of, well, it's 10 minutes. Like, I don't have 10 minutes to give you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if I only give you this 10-minute piece 2 minutes, have I devalued it, or have I undervalued or sold it short? Or is the, it just feels as though it's to have to justify your place of existence, in a landscape, is just nihilistic beyond belief. I feel like, in some ways, of just like, it's not my
Yeah.
job. It's not my job. My job is to exist. I exist. Therefore I
Yeah.
am. The rights of man. Let's get back to some French Revolution shit. You know what I mean? I don't have to, like, you know, create a deck, a sales pitch every day for my existence to be valued in the world. But but in an online attention economy, that's almost the proposition that everyone's faced with. Like, okay, here's 24 hours. How am I going to justify existing
Yeah.
online today? And just like, oh Lord, I can't.
And
I don't. I don't have the roadmap for that one. I don't have the. I don't have the length of rope long enough to hang myself enough over something like that.
like, yeah, and that's the other fucked up thing, is that like as an artist who is, if you're an artist, who is like aware of that um reality and subject to it, and like you're aware of, like, but you want to keep making stuff, like now on top of all that, all those other concerns, if you're a person with like empathy, you're also asking like, well, am I just adding to all that noise if I keep
Mm.
putting stuff out? And now you have like that, like on top of all the other shit you're worrying about, what, or like when you on this question of like, like how to keep making stuff and enjoying it. And it's like, but it's like, it's fucked up that we're the ones like worried about that, because it's not like it's not our fault that things are like that. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it wasn't noise when it was just like or it's never, it's not noise or slop or whatever, like when it's just like stuff that we're making, or it's always just been like um, art that we're trying to share with other people, but it got yeah, it got folded into um, that like, and anything that takes up um, attention got folded into that just whole
Content.
mass of like, yeah. So it's um
It's content is another word for trash.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's just
so
like the shit that comes in your mailbox every day, like on the newsprint stuff. You know, like it's all over your fingers. You know, that's content.
yeah. But yeah, so it yeah, again it comes back to like, for me at least, like I have to just be like, it's gonna it's gonna find who it's supposed to. um like when I feel into like my fears about putting stuff out, and like what's at the core of it now, or like what makes me nervous about putting something out there, is like some sort of, it's like imagining some person that's like, this isn't just bad, like it shouldn't have been made. Like like it took up time and space in the universe that didn't need to, or something like that. Where it's like there's a psychotic thing. It's like you can, like, I do think that about like, like AI stuff, but like in terms of like, if I heard a song like, the like Addison Rae song or something, and like I didn't like it, I wouldn't think like, well, fuck her for like making this in the first, like I've never thought that about a song that I didn't like in my entire life, or like, it's like, and so, but it's like that's the way this kind of like insecurity is translated now. But like um but yeah, I have to come back to just like, um uh yeah, like it's like just it's yeah, just trust that it's going to like, um it's going to find who it needs to, and and there are people out there who it will be worth their time, and they'll appreciate it, and I might just like never know that fully. Like I like, like it might just exist in a vacuum. Like I had that anniversary show like 2 weeks ago or whatever that was, for that the record that Dean put out, that was 15 years old, and I was still like hearing from people uh like at that show about like, what that how that record was a part of their lives like 15 years ago, and it's like that's the kind of thing where like, and if I hadn't had that show, or if I did but they didn't um make a point of like saying something to me, then I would just never know that it did have impact or meaning for people. And like, same as me, as somebody who like, like listens to other people's music, or just like enjoys art and other things that people create. And so like, the vast majority of those people aren't going to know or comprehend like the impact it had on my life, and how much I am glad that their thing existed, or that they made it, or that they decided to put it out and didn't um, second guess themselves or whatever. Like, um, and this just feels like that's just like, um, part of the deal, is like, it's like there's no guarantee that it's going to have in like impact, or that like people will feel like it's worth their time, or that it's um, like, there's just, yeah, there's no uh, no guarantees of any of that. But again, going back to like, it's like I have to make it anyway because just like something about like, there's some quote I saw by writer May Sarton, I think her name was, about like the like if you don't give the gift away, it like kind of turns into a kind of poison inside, and it's like the flow of life is backed up, and it's fun. It's like it's another language we put on these things, like creative acts is like as gifts or like creative gifts, and like the whole thing about gifts is you have to like give them to somebody. And also the thing with gifts is that you don't give some like a gift. It's a gift because there isn't an expectation of outcome. If it's a like an authentic gift and not like some weird psychological game you're playing with somebody, but that's it comes, that's like a helpful framing, I think, for me, because it's like the question of it's like I just have to reconcile those two things. It's like it's going to be uncomfortable, and I might just like not know. It might feel like pointless or something because I just don't know. Like, is this fucking, like what am I even doing? Does it matter? And but I have to reconcile that with the fact that like I have to do it anyway because I'm going to feel like shit if I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Well, you've been so generous with your time. I'll wrap it up here. Where do you, if people want to know more about you and about the music you make and your projects, where do you direct people to listen, or how would you like people to find out more about you?
Basically all I got is my Bandcamp, which is infinitebody.bandcamp.com, and I have if you follow me on that, then you would get like an email with updates whenever they happen. And otherwise I'm on Instagram as Kyle Parker XXL, and but that's all. That's my only presence, is those two things.
Cool. Okay. Well, I will link to those in the show notes below. I love the picture you posted of you playing live for the 15th anniversary show. I saw my wife Shannon and I were in the background of it, and it's funny. We were just dating at the time, and I showed our kids. We have 2 kids, and I was like, "See, this is mom and dad." But when we were cool, we used to go see noise shows and drink tall boys, and Mom Terry used to be blonde, and they kind of looked at her like, I don't know, whatever, guys, whatever. Like we'll never be cool to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was sweet. It was fun. I don't think I've ever seen that photo. So it was fun. It was fun just for her and I to look back at it and go, we look the same. We're still good. We're good. We got it. We're still cool.
Yeah.
So we can do that. Yeah. Awesome, Kyle. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome. Radical. There it is. My interview with Kyle Parker, one for the record books. Last week, Ned Raggett. This week, Kyle Parker. I am so stoked that this interview was good and this conversation was good. And I'm also just stoked on the podcast. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope everybody listening is also having fun listening to the podcast. I am coming up on the end of the second year of doing this. I don't really have an exact count, but I remember kind of doing it towards the end of summer, middle of summer, 2 years ago. So I think coming up next month, August, I'm just going to say first week in August is like the reset point. And August will be my third year, the beginning of the third year of doing the podcast, which I'm stoked on. And I want to do something fun for the beginning of the third year. So I'm going to do a smell themed August to celebrate the third year of me doing this podcast. It seems fun. I saw after I interviewed Tim Byron from the Meishi that his brother Jeff, or I interviewed Jeff and his brother Tim. Said that I should be interviewing more smell people. I should do a smell month. And so I said, okay, that sounds fun. So I have some interviews lined up for beginning of August to discuss all things smell. It's funny for me though, because I feel like so much of my life and my creative life and musical life has been tied to the smell that I'd never really think about calling it out in any kind of way, or like thinking of it like I was like, oh, there's a theme. I should do, like see it as separate. I always kind of internalized it in a way where I feel like this podcast in general is a smell adjacent podcast or smell affiliated podcast, just because so much of what I've done and what I've learned in my experiences in life have come out of my involvement in volunteering and, just being involved with performing and playing at the Smell. So, but it's a good idea. So thank you, Tim from Hell Yeah and the Meishi for doing that. I appreciate it. So yeah, coming up in August, we'll be doing more smell related things. I guess Kyle Parker is kind of smell related. There's a few things that, it's hard to even know, like, well, outside of Jim Smith, who we'll be interviewing, who runs the Smell, there are so many versions of what the Smell is, in terms of people who've been involved and volunteer and do things. That's hard to really, I don't want to leave anyone out. But I'm going to pick 4 interviews, and then I'll pepper the rest of my life with talking to other people about the Smell and, talking about the Smell. Does that work for everybody? Will that be okay? But for the purposes of this podcast, I will pick the month of August to celebrate the third year of this podcast by interviewing 4 smell-related people. And maybe there'll be 5,800 more smell people involved in all different walks and assets and facets of this podcast. But Kyle Parker, you're part of the Smell. You're part of my lifetime of playing and seeing shows at the Smell. So thank you for coming on, talking about the Smell, talking about your work. And if you'd like to find more out about Kyle Parker, you can follow him on the Instagrams at Kyle Parker XXL. Also go to his Bandcamp, infinitebody.bandcamp.com, and, listen to his music, play his music. Let them know what you think. Oh, also, don't forget, go to postpresentmedium.com to purchase PPM number 28, I guess. Dean is good at numbering things. I'm not good at numbering things. But yeah, you can buy his records there. So be well, everyone. This is quite a time. Hug your friends, hug your loved ones, give artists money, and fuck ice. See ya.
I was always into like vocoders and stuff